Now, incentives to face the challenges of the coffee, cocoa, and palm producers related to the norms of the European Union. You know the territory. This slide is very interesting and allows us to see how the land is structured. We have, as you can see, 7.8 for permanent crops. But these permanent crops are not separated. Many of them are beneath or above that in soils or forestal, but as you can see, every time we take into account, of course this is a summary. I asked Mario, and I still don't have the precise data, but look at how many families that work with cocoa. 30,000, more or less. 30,000 families. From coffee, 41,000. Some people even say 45,000. Palm, from 5,000. So every time we speak about doing something, let's think about these numbers. Because if we're thinking about small parcels and the 1,000 farms geolocated, we are not really covering anything. Well, we have Jorge Lasso and Fidel Castro. We did an workshop about incentives. And in summary, overcome informality, lack of organization, lack of norms, clear norms, and the colleagues, what did they say? We need co-financing, non-refundable co-financing for small medium companies. And then technical assistance for the implementation of plans, and a series of other ideas. Their question is, do we have a national strategy to face the norms for zero deforestation in Europe? Do we have them? Who leads that? What are the indicators to do the follow-up and to say we have progress in this and this or that? We don't have that roadmap to face in an articulate manner these norms of the European Union. But we are, look at this is an event from March. We have Ivan Mena, people that we know, series of colleagues here. This is a roadmap that was presented by Mario with the 7 points of the roadmap, from looking at the legality of the lands that is improving to traceability, and even number 7, we're working 7 objectives in the same place. We had an event. We had more people than today. What was good about this event? We committed that Mario Rivero leads the roadmap. And Mario is mentioning, Mario is presenting this progress in this roadmap with coffee, palm, cocoa. Now we have the 5 incentives: the Merece, Créditos, funds, certifications, and seals or certification. So let's see in these slides. I love when I found this information, by the way. It says San Martin, the only region in Peru that implemented ecosystemic services, retribution ecosystemic services. Did the project ended? Possibly. The Huallaga project. But I wonder, is there anyone leading the project from the EUDR, or is there anyone in doing preservation of the forests. So the proposal exists. The norm is there. Where are the incentives? We need to give the next step and to do a roadmap for what are these incentives. Credits and microcredits. As I was saying in the morning, there are credits, but how much do they cost? 30%, 27%. Impossible with those credits to do agriculture. So remember, 30,000 producers, 75,000 families that need no more than 2 hectares in average. So the type of credits, are they designed for 2.5 hectare owners or 2.4 hectare farmers? This is information that I was given by the Minagri from the Agro Bank. How many credits have been provided from October 2020 to July 2024? How many producers are we? 30,000. But we have provided 20 credits. How can we say we will face UDR if we cannot even start by having a different scope? Of course, here in San Martin, we have a series of tools. We have economic ecologic zoning, we have forestal zoning, agro ecologic zoning. Thank you. We have a lot of local work, but it's there on paper. How can we jump to the next phase? You, my colleagues, tell us, what do we need to progress? Because if not, we will meet in another event with so many people to tell exactly the same story, because we don't have follow-up indicators to see how much we have progressed. Look at it from the point of view of the people and the credits. I think it was interesting when I read this note. UNDP, I think, offered Minagri to support with technical assistance for the implementation of this. It says agriculture sector approve incentives so the small producers of cocoa and coffee incorporate a agro forestal system SAF. How many credits do we have until now? None. I called Cesar Quispe and I asked him, send you a picture of my system, and I told him I need the money to do the trimming, and they tell us we don't have that product. So what are we talking about? If we have a series of documents, agreements, and they are left there, the funds, it is a pity, and it's a pity that there is no connection between Agro Bank and Agro IDS. There's no connection with regional policies. For us, the best program that I know is Agro IDS. It's the only program where the money can get to the producer. I haven't seen any program as this, but it's isolated, and I don't know how many millions does it have. 200 million. So there was a series of a long list of businesses. What we require is How do we do proposals for development together, coming to the territory and working together? This is what we need urgently. Do we have 3 minutes? Okay, certifications. How much are they giving you for organic cocoa? How much does it benefit you? Almost none. Nothing. Coffee and cocoa, the cobs are in risk because the local market buys more expensive than the ones that are organized. And I read the Bible, and it says that there are forces, obscure forces that makes us harm, but we actually know what makes us harm. I like this idea of carbon bonds. It sounds very trendy and cool. I have used this picture to remind us that how are we doing with carbon bonds? How many producers are we? How much beneficiaries do we have with carbon bonds in Peru? So when I look at this in the platform, I think it's super interesting to have all the information in transparent manner. Let's see how Peru is doing, and this is a reality. It's not that they're not working. Yes, I know why. Yes, yes. I'm just showing the picture that I see, or the image that I see. What is behind that? I know you're working with on that field, but what I'm showing is what I can see in the picture today. But we need to know how to organize it. Yes, definitely. And sometimes when we are different positions, we do not analyze them in the proper manner to provide better solutions. That is true. I just wanted to mention this non-financial incentives. I think we can do more in this field. We have talked about the map with the different areas and how we have divided the use of the soil of the land, but we have many producers, 70% of the producers that are in high altitude forestal levels and that will not get their titles. In the morning, they mentioned, or I spoke about the different modes for titling, and this is where we can have an incentives, provide formality, not the titles. I mean, because the norm will not allow it. But I think it was interesting what Cesar said, and I think I'm betting for that digital identity we could achieve with that. That the people say, yes, I'm a producer that do not deforestate because the Ministry of Agriculture recognizes me and I'm doing things good and I'm in the platform. But of course, in Parlamas, in October, we thought it was going to be launched in November. And now they say in April. We have another date and we'll have digital identities coming soon, hopefully. And so judicial security is something that we need, and we need to work on governance and strengthening regional governance. In San Martin, we have very interesting tools, but that we are not using well this governance. We have to use it in the proper manner. And also, you all know, I was speaking with Carmen Rosa, how many people do we need to provide technical assistance? Ask how many technicians do the cops have? 150, 200? Well, they just told me. And I congratulate my friend from Achievito Food, 5,000 producers, 100, how many technicians? 80. Yeah, look at the proportion. You cannot provide technical assistance. You have 80, and they ask how many do they have per organization. So the subject of technical assistance is basic. Jorge Lasso wrote a document. Madras, Ladras, Ladras. How many do they have? We can do ask Mario. Director, he must know. But I think that I am convinced that technical assistance can be great incentives we need to improve. We have created a plan for sustainable development in Cocoa. We have met with 88 technicians and 180 cooperatives. We have a roadmap. We're building a roadmap for sustainable entrepreneurship in cocoa. We have been with several experts there, working on regenerative agriculture. We have more and new things related to that field. And we had Edit, and in Edit we identified roads. Where does cocoa transit? So, and we were thinking, okay, we need this to education or health, so we need think about the development for life, and we need to 3 minutes to the fluency about their forest wage up. That's like on the radio, 80 to the 5. I lead it the vacation. There's sus, but we did deal for the region. You know, because it's in Sabat, they did have my country research. We did not that they are the region. But one of the they were there, they got to the region, and with the last week there was about you about being the fill out or change the tool. In the American School allows for conservation. We are in the buffer zone on the what about the chief? Yeah, so why don't we need to why we do agreement or not deforestation? I mean the mayors that you have here, provincial mayors, how many more district mayors? So I'll live in reading about that thing. So yes, we want to call about Steve Raw, but how to be what they put it. Anyway, yes, thank you. That would be all.
Thank you. Now I want to ask the panelists to come to the front. As the first panelist, we have Alexandra Rojas, president of APP Cacao, Lorenzo Castillo, manager of the Junta Nacional del Café, José Antonio Mejía, manager from Amazon Training, Carmen Rosa, director for the country NCBA CLUSA, and Jorge Fidel Castro from Midagre. A big applause for them. In each hectare. So Anaximandra will be the first one to tell us from the cacao sector, but that he will tell us what are the challenges and what are the necessary incentives. Thank you, Patricia. Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here today participating with multiple actors, and I think I'm also concerned for the EUDR from APP Cacao. Please, we say hi. We form 105 cooperatives. We have 25,000 producers. And for us, it is concerning to see Gerardo as he shows the panorama and the advances in reference to the bee yield. There are multiple things that are lacking in the agricultural system. Right now, we're going through a concerning crisis. We are 2.2 producers, and we have, in the terms of partnering that we've been talking about very much here, currently only 6%. 6% of us are partners, and that's a big weakness and related to the agricultural. How can we access to credits? They talked about agro banks, but that's in order to access those. And the bank, for example, has only given 50,000 credits to 50,000 agriculture. So there are resources, but how can we access them? How can we help the producer so that they can obtain the benefit of renovation and rehabilitation in cacao that we needed now to produce more efficiently? So to not go beyond agricultural borders, and everybody wants to do cacao. So how can these units that we currently have that need to continue, how can we access those credits in the best way possible? So I think there, all of the organizations, we can see how we can support the agrobank to access those credits. On the other hand, we have also talked within this committee that we have in the map of this platform that exists in the maps of how to move forward and georeference. San Martin, I think, has an advantage. There's 40% of producers that are georeferenced, but at a level of country of south or center, I believe we don't go beyond 50%. So there we need resources to be able to georeference all the producers that really need it. There are a lot of producers that don't know of the EUTR. You go to the places that are really far away and they don't know about this. So how can we reach there? Do we need technical assistance? How can we inform all of that? In 2025, they won't be able to sell their product. On the other side, cooperatives have suffered in this last year of the increase of price. A lot of cooperatives have almost gone broke because they didn't have capital. That has been a problem as well. And we have talked with Agrobank so that we could increase the financing and not let them go broke for the cooperatives. We have been in a constant fight, and in some cases, we have been able to offer credits to these cooperatives so they could buy from the producers. Because the producers and these high prices, who do they prefer to sell? The intermediary, because they don't ask for quality, they don't ask for an adequate fermentation. So the producer looks for immediate profit. So I think that here we are all concerned of how we can make this chain more sustainable. From Minari, as we have looked how to have a program of cacao development, and the first and foremost thing is to ensure humidity, which is fertilization, and also the management of the crop. I think those are basic conditions to improve the productivity of cacao and to have better results. And on another side, technical assistance that cooperatives do, but we need more resources to get to our producers. I think that is from part from the producers. That's our point of view, Patricia, and thank you. Thank you, Anaximandro. Now we give the mic to Lorenzo. By the amount of producers that he represents today, he brought us some statistics. Thank you. What I'm gonna do is now show you a graphic of provocation. 2024, our estimated production is of 241,000 tons, more or less 9% less in relation to 2023, and just a little bit more than 2022, which was 223,000 tons. But I want to show in line 1, 19% of the coffee area produces 36% of this harvest, with a result of 1,160 kilograms per hectare. There you have producers that you have 2,000, 3,000 kilos, of course, there in this area of 75,000 hectares. The second section, 140,000 hectares, 36% produces 34%. The result, 585 kilos per hectare. But for the 43%, 165,000 hectares are the 30% and have 436 kilos of result per hectare. The average 634 kilos per hectare, and the trend is decreasing in the production of coffee. I put this chart for all of you to analyze, and so that we can be more sincere of the stats that we have, because I am sure that the next 2023 we will have a party in the country, but this is a reality. And we ask, with this structure of production, what future do we have in a context of what we have to compete with? This is a visual, the production from the year 2011, which was the peak year of coffee production, the highest without financing. And now we see that it decreases a little bit, and it goes up a little bit in 2018, but it continues to go down. And this trend and these stats are important too. These are statistics that are in the SUNAT, and which add to 12 or 15%, which go to the internal consumption. So these statistics are not and making up, it's the gathering of what's been reported into customs and what's been weighed kilo per kilo. And the next slide that I want to bring to your attention, formalization of the ownership of lands, where 3.8 million from 2012, 2 million is the gap. These are numbers that gives us a lack of transparency and give stability to the producers. This is another chart that we did not make up, but it's SENASA, who reports November 2023. 44% of the coffee region there was presence of disease of the crops. So these are scenarios where we have to compete with Costa Rica, Colombia, Honduras, Uganda, etc. Brazil, we don't count it because it's out of our reach. So the challenge is, and we have something to think about. First, today, there are no contracts for shipment of coffee. There are restrictions, and there's this restriction from October that will possibly go up to March, April if we don't react immediately how to face these problems of the embargo of cafe, of the shipping of cafes, because it is related to the trust of coffee and agroforestry. Damage of the one thing I want to mention is the problem that we have in the country is disinstitutionality. Trust is something, it's a word that we've been talking about, and how do we build the committee of coffee does not exist, and it's only an exchange of information. There's no commitment. The countries that are successful with coffee, they have it institutionalized, and it's not because of the private sector. It's because there is a need in the country, as we have seen in crisis, create of trust processes, and that's a challenge of the cooperation. How are they going to help to create processes of institutionalization that allows to create spaces and dialogue so that we can continue to move forward? A decrease in the production of coffee, climate change is a situation that's critical, and we are not going to face it just with agroforestry. We need to face it much more structured in the future. Credit for coffee, well, right now there is only AgroPeru because Agrobank has excluded coffee. The funds from Agrobank, you go to their page and there are no credits for coffee since 2020. Why? Because they've said it's probably a problem of restructuring in Agrobank. And they have funds, but they're deposited in private accounts, gaining interest for them to stay maintained. That is a reality that we have to try to fix. The last challenge, urgent challenges, we need to give voice to the producers. And we should generate tables where producers can continue generating proposals, because we are not talking about how make proposals that can take this on. I cannot talk about a development if private actors don't have an active role. We need traceability, trustworthy traceability with georeference. We've talked about Cesar. We are looking forward to the platform so that it can support the registry of and then go to the georeference with what is established. But I leave the challenge to Cesar and to Fidel Castro. Work as you're in charge of agricultural policies with an agenda that allows us to have the capital interest in mind.
Sensibilización de los productores y en
It's important to have give transparency to all the processes. Restructuring of agrobank because we need to access credit that allows us to have better opportunities. And another challenge to the corporations, let's do a fund to renovate coffee areas. We can do like a showroom with the financial agents that we could do like a showroom where all the sustainability implementation can be put, and the forestry regulation and strengthen sustainability. Small agriculture that's not integrated. It's one challenge. We have a law, 3 years. We haven't been able to establish the committee of cooperatives, and there isn't morning without coffee, and I drink Peruvian coffee. Thank you, Lorenzo. Jose Antonio Mejia, he's going to answer these questions. What are the challenges and what are the most strong incentives? In the latest weeks, we have talked about financial incentives and exporters. We have been really in June, we talked about awards of like $100 to $120. But now, in the last week, the prices have increased because it's been more challenging of how the regulation has been presented. Right now, the shipping, it's being offered as 300 euros. This is a price per ton and blocked us, and it's almost impossible have a strategy of reintegration for the end of the year because SUNAT will give you a fine. So it's impossible. We have tried it, but I think that nobody has achieved that. And now the exporters, the cooperatives, and based on their list of producers that have been identified, there has to be a differentiated price. There's a producer for UDR, they're going to receive a price of 26 soles, but if you are, maybe you could get like 1 sol less or 25.50, but we have to give it to them at the moment. Now, this is a bit of pain for SUNAT because SUNAT always gives, they look at it, everything they look at is a problem. So this is our taxes and customs. So the negotiation with the clients are also asking us for 100% of geolocalization and polygons. Before we used to only talk about geographical points, but in the latest conversations that we've had with clients, they ask us 100% of polygons. And at that moment, we haven't been found difficulties because we have more experience now and through the apps as well. But what they're also asking is questionnaire of all the volume that we have, all our database, and now they talk to us if our level of trust with the client is close, all the legal framework is only in a legal declaration. But if it's a client that I've worked with for a long time and they know me, knows my business, so everything that's legal, it's basically just like a legal declaration or certification where I affirm that I take care of everything under regulation. But if the client doesn't know you, then they do ask you a confirmation of zero deforestation. So what we ask which is a ministry who's going to give us that, who's going to take care of the new clients that don't know you. It can be with the confirmation that the agricultural ministry is preparing, but we've also talked with different places that provide certifications like Control Junior. So everything that's related to geolocalization, it's at 100%. And from the legal framework of lands and taking care of the forest, wildlife, ask questions are always, if there's no relationship, then they're going to ask us for more detailed and official information. And the platform of the volumes will be controlled by the platforms of the European Union. If you send your list, let's do an example. If we have made a list of 500 EUDR producers for this year to send from October to December. And in our contract from October to December, we're sending all of our list. And they upload it to the EU portal to verify if they're lower risk, if our filter here in Peru has been good, because obviously before we send our list, we have to filter our list. And then it will go through. So, and the volumes, what we always talk about, the traceability applies to volume, that this producer says only has 2 hectares, they're not going to sell you 4. Or maybe he sells me 2 and another, he sells 2, the same producer that told you he only has 2 tons, triples his production. So that cannot happen. So the volumes can be controlled through the platform of the EU with the sending of the list. And the non-financial incentives, Gerardo summarized it perfectly. Those are the path to follow. I think his presentation was really precise, and the big risk I think we can verify still doesn't have 100% of our geolocation of our farms. What do we do when we have a problem? We look to our neighbor or to the front, and we first say we have the problem, right? And then the problem is, right now the EU won't just only ask us the EUDR. A lot of the contracts that are going to Asia are also asking us for this. So it's not just for the cacao that is being used in Indonesia. So those volumes, we don't have it. Not in cacao, not in coffee. So that's a big challenge. And I think the best thing we can do is that Milagri can help us with the digital tool and open it at 100%. Whoever wants to use it, so it can be free access. And that the producers can have the possibility of registering themselves and put their own point. And at the beginning, of course, maybe it's not going to be 100% exact, but I think it's a good progress so that we can make it better through trial and error, so that it can allow us all to work together, and that way Peru can become recognized as a consistent exporter. Thank you, Jose. Okay, Carmen Rosa. So you're going to talk about the private sector challenges and incentives. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Let's thank for your invitation. The DF really is very important, knowing spaces at the Coalition for Sustainable Production, settlement works groups at the regional San Martin's, what's good that have their own action plans, roadmaps through which we can see how that governance the different levels, articulate and will work in line with object system strategies that are found at the national regional level, and not only looking at a lot of the platforms, but also into the organizations that do need to reassess their objectives based on the market demands. And here I am put into value the knowledge that we have been sharing in this month, not only because of regulation, but a series of norms that are happening to manage it, mentality change. And I think knowledge must be the most important asset and richness that we have at the level of organization and entities. We know that with the implementation of these policies and these strategies that are framed in promoting sustainability and preservation of resources. And among the financial instruments, I consider important that we should improve credits that are focused on generating those incentives in the organizations that are the main parts of the chain, so they can apply sustainable practices. The payments for environmental services, there are projects that started not only in the private sector but in the public sector. So through these programs, so we can preserve forests and apply sustainable practices. And out of the green funds that exist in the country, we can up green technologies, and with that contribute, among other things, to the reduction of deforestation. Gerardo mentioned that the families are in the middle of all our instruments. At a certain point, I heard Cesar mentioning that a survey of the name mentioned that 95% or 85% of the families at least have one phone. So and take into account the families, the wife and children of the producers, because are the young people that have more access to technology and digital tools. Carlos Valdivia mentioned this morning how they were doing training using a tool or WhatsApp. So I think working with the families, we can have these financial instruments, and we can have access to them. And among these instruments, I think that vertical safety is important because it allows the producer to apply these sustainable practices to ensure that in a way, at the long term, it will be an important incentive. So the formalization and the facilitation for to break those bureaucratic barriers and the In this case,
I think that God is fully verted in
the public and private sector, of all the sector, there is a law to promote sociability, but there are few organizations that really access to this information. I believe it's important to sensitize or create awareness, basically, around uh, some of these aspects that I think these are very important aspects that are very important benefits.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The training, for example, in the morning, we also mentioned that training and technical assistance can
In the Bible or that. Then the
be included as well as public investment that is articulated in the territories and leading or comes with technical development. The area of San Martin is not the same as in Cusco or Ayacucho, so we need
over the stage.
to offer these programs according to the needs of the families and the population and the territories where it develops. Also, they spoke about accreditation or certification. We should continue promoting this with sustainable standards, and I congratulate the initiatives because through contests is that we recognize the efforts not only of producers but as set stakeholders, and also this play an important role to motivate others and to improve the applicability of their knowledge. And we put at your disposal the platform to develop these courses that are synchronic and asynchronic. Thank you, Rosa. And it's not by mistake that we left Biel in the end of this sector. Fidel is from the Midagri, and he can speak about the necessities that Gerardo has mentioned. Thank you. Thank you, Willie. Yeah. As you how we can interact with the sectors and this framework of the European regulation. Had that sessions that the day with, and there was a meeting or this next to other sectors on the fleet. The sector producers and also international cooperation. It is a challenging work, but the commitment is to work hard. The adequation of this challenge for and trade. Amazon said the particular case of the financial and non-financial incentives throughout the history of the history, and now. And because of a requirement, public policies are customized, and the markets, for example, open in the past to credits not only to agriculture but different sectors, and the coverage. Well, because of that, for example, AgroArco was created. And they so they have it specialized in the organization that something being way and but here efforts not only of producers but as set stakeholders, and also they play an important role to motivate others and to improve the applicability of their knowledge. And we put at your disposal the platform to develop these courses that are synchronic and asynchronic. Thank you, Rosa. And it's not uh, by mistake that we left Fidel in the end of this sector. Fidel is from the Midagri, and he can speak about the necessities that Gerardo has mentioned. Thank you. Thank you, Willie. Yeah. The other of the outspoken as you of how you can interact with the sectors and this framework of the European regulation. Have that sessions that the day that with and there was a meeting or this next to other sectors on the fleet. The sector producers and also international cooperation. It is a challenging work, but the commitment is that to work hard to be adequation of this it's challenge for the and trade Amazon products the particular case of the financial non-financial incentives throughout the history of the history and now and because of a requirement bringing public policies are customized and the markets, for example, open in the past to credits not only to agriculture but in different sectors and the coverage. Well, because of that, for example, AgroArco was created and make it and so you have it specialized in the organization that something being worried and but here but also to create it there's a reason of it. You see what because of this the certain needs the information about the data the coverage and Lucy future coverage to producers that actually actually credits WA bank and the agro-perimi funds, but there was the necessity to have as possible with the benefit the idea of that and the state creates programs to provide direct financing to farmers. These are non-refundable funds and or with the virtual funds and that provide working capital, technology, and supplies, improvement in warehousing and machinery to our cocoa, coffee, to cattling, coffee producers and cattling. But the highest demand is concentrated in the organized groups, developed mainly, some with corporation support, other ones that have applied because corporations have progressed this change. Remember, we need to improve this because the challenge of the European Union framework proposes that these programs that we have well, no, it worked out and professional thing. Yeah, hard. So you like the fight because they lead us into the preservation of our forests. The policy should prioritize and elevate productivity through technology and mechanisms production instead of the expansion of those plots. But the financial products that we have and the sector are different because the producers are different.
many of the COPs that we have covered today, they have the tools and the resources to work, but it's not the case of all of them. So to stay through services adequate, for example, geolocation has been mentioned is one example of that. We create the service to contribute to a critical probably sector with a term that is closer and closer, and all resources walking the same line. And funding, for example, there are the instruments. They exist. They have been improving, and we have a great challenge. So these can have more coverage. We have worked much to develop the work of cocoa and coffee producers, and we have improved the mechanisms, but there's still a gap in coverage and in access to these instruments. And at lunch, we were speaking with some crop producers that said that there's a necessity to change the industry, the instruments as Agro Peru profiling, because the funding exists. The developer, the building, the baby. The problem is that the demand, the producers do not want to fight for it. So we need to reach the product or approximate the about to the necessities. Reduce the rates, for example. We need to improve those systems. We have, for example, the VDAP that offers funding. There is a diverse offer, but deep coverage, and the gap is still high. And there is a challenge that and from the financial side, we need to work on formalization. Land titling, it's a very important aspect. And there was a reform where titling has to be housing sector. So the land titling had a series of operations that progress was passed to the housing sector. You want to buy that, and then we stopped that because of that. To put it in simple terms, so that generated now limited progress, but it's back in the agriculture and the resources that will definitely help her and that including the territorial regulation. They need to close this part by showing services. Miyagi is a highly formal organization, and what we are looking for is that this context of regulation of the EU regulation generates an opportunity for incentives. We have a taxation incentives, and basically there are others, not only in Peru but in different countries. We have proven that these are mechanisms that are very important for businesses. This is the vision that we are sharing, a more comprehensive vision and with the wealth that generates opportunities. So the public policies are at that level. We are working on the ministry on that package. So in the